Good morning and welcome to Backyard and Beyond. And good morning to you, Dr. Dave.
Good morning.
So hopefully everything is going well. Have you been out hunting in the last few days?
Not the last few days, but I've been hunting a lot since I saw you.
Oh, that's wonderful. And, of course, I'm sure the deer hunting seasons are very different from state to state. And I was checking with somebody here in Iowa, and, we've got rifle season and shotgun season and black powder season and bow season all mixed up and still going on. But let's jump into the bow hunting because that's your specialty.
That's all that I do, yeah.
Really? Have you ever done other kind, or is that always been your forte?
I've not gun hunted for 50 years.
That's a long time. Well, I want for you to share some of your background with folks because you've been an educator, I think, for almost your whole life. So give us a bit of your background.
Well, I was a professor here in the wildlife department at West Virginia University for 30 years, and I retired in 98. And in addition to that, in 1971, I started writing for Bowhunter magazine, writing about conservation things as well as bow hunting things and white-tailed deer things. And next October will be my 40th anniversary issue with those guys, so that's been fun.
Yeah, well, that's great. And you do some other things that, in terms of writing, also to share information.
I do. I do the whitetail column for a magazine called Whitetail Journal, and I write on a couple websites, bowsite.net and sportsmansguide.com. And I do a weekly Sunday newspaper outdoor page here in Morgantown for 50 to 70,000 readers.
Wow. And I understand you've also had some radio experience.
Radio, no.
No. Okay.
No.
That was I wasn't listening well.
Yes.
Television, okay, where they can see you in full living color.
Well, I'm not sure that's very important, but Bowhunter magazine has a television show on the Sportsman channel. And then prior to that, I have a little health problem that started with a bad surgery in December of 2007. And prior to that, for 8 years, I did a little thing on several television shows.
Mm-hmm. So you've been out there, and as I say, that this is all in terms of education and sharing things that you love and that you know about. I want to talk just a little bit about when you were with West Virginia University and in talking about wildlife. What kind of wildlife management, what does that all include?
Yeah, it's a major curriculum here with over 200 students, and we do bachelor's degrees in wildlife and fisheries, master's and PhD degrees. I taught a wildlife and fisheries policy course for our majors, and then I taught some writing course for our majors, mm-hmm. and I taught a deer management course for our graduate students. It's a wildlife and fisheries management curricula are taught in a number of the major universities. Your Iowa State University has an excellent program right there in Iowa.
Well, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And our kids end up doing working for state fish and wildlife agencies. They work for federal fish and wildlife agencies, the Forest Service, the Fish and Wildlife Service. They work in endangered species areas. They do a lot. They work for consulting firms who do wildlife work. So they work in law enforcement. They end up all over.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like there are many opportunities, and for some people who love to be outdoors or love the animals and so on, great possibilities there for a way to kind of carry that into your professional life.
Actually, there's more job opportunities now than there's been in a long time.
Okay, so young people, if you're thinking about a field, there you go. Might want to look into that. If
you bet.
You want. I mean, I think your interests have to sort of be in a certain area there. It wouldn't be for me, but for some people, they'd love this. This is a great opportunity. When did you start kind of hunting and start knowing that this was going to be your field of interest as you became an adult?
That's a really good question, because back when I was younger, I have an identical twin brother who he just retired as head of the wildlife department at the University of Alberta, and we got into this field because we hunted.
Uh-huh.
My dad took us hunting when we were 12 years old, and that's how we ended up deciding we wanted to major in wildlife and be professors.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, most wildlife students in college got there because they hunted.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's changed a lot. Hunting is not as important as far as getting students into a career in wildlife as it once was, but that's how we got into it. We loved the outdoors from hunting, and then decided that would be a career.
Mm-hmm. So you say, some people now don't get into hunting, and I'm not a hunter, but why should I then be concerned about wildlife management?
Say again?
Why should I, who is not being a hunter, why should I be interested in wildlife management? Really
good question, and actually it relates to hunting, because hunters and fishermen pay the bills. We non-hunters really don't contribute a whole lot to the future of hunting and the future of wildlife. Hunters do, and fishermen do, because they, years ago, they got a tax imposed on themselves. At their request, they went to the federal government and said, we want to support hunting and fishing, so we would support a tax on hunting and fishing equipment. And in general, it's an 11% federal excise tax. Every time a hunter buys hunting equipment, whether it be a bow and arrow or hunting clothes or whatever, they pay an extra 11%. That's a federal tax, and almost all of that money, almost all of it, returns to the state of Iowa or West Virginia, and goes to the State Wildlife Agency for use in wildlife management. And so it pays for, I don't know about Iowa, I don't know if Iowa gets any money from the general revenues there. They probably get a smaller amount, but most of the money that runs your State Wildlife Agency comes from two sources: the federal excise tax that hunters pay, and the license money that hunters pay.
Okay.
And what's neat about all that is that money not only pays for game management of deer and pheasants and turkeys and whatever in Iowa and in West Virginia, but it also pays for a lot of the non-game species and the endangered species work, and it pays for most, if not all, of the law enforcement work that is protective of all wildlife. So
we need to say a big thank you to the hunters.
Absolutely. I cringe when I hear of the anti-hunters wanting to stop hunting. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, but I cringe because if we did stop hunting, we would lose a lot of our funds that manage all wildlife for all citizens,
okay.
Hunters and non-hunters alike.
Okay. A couple specific things that I want to mention. When you were talking about writing, you did not mention you have 2 books that you've put together. So we need to talk about those books a little bit.
I do, and in fact, I'll be honest with you, Vaughn, I'm getting a lot of requests right now because it's Christmas.
Yes.
And so a lot of women are buying my newest book, which is on antlers, called Whitetail Racks. And you can go to my website, knowhunting.com, Know, knowhunting.com, and the books are there. Whitetail Advantage is a book all about the biology of deer and research that shows what they do that help hunters be more successful. And then Whitetail Racks is about antlers, and it's a coffee table book.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of pictures, but also a lot of interesting information on deer antlers.
Okay. So great. I'm glad you mentioned the Christmas gift thing because I think it could be perfect for some people. And as you say, just go to your website and you get all the information there. And that's another place you really show up your writing skills because you have an Ask Dr. Dave. You have all kinds of things on your website, nohunting.com. One other thing that I think, many other things, but one that I'd like to have you mention are your Christian game dinners.
Yeah, they're neat. You know, back when I was young, back in the 50s, game dinners were very popular in churches. And then they sort of died out. But in the last 15 to 20 years, especially the last 10 years, game dinners in churches are a really big deal. And I've been speaking at game dinners in churches for the last 5 or 6 years. And I was in the hospital most of 2008 due to a bad surgery, but last year I was back doing them, and I only did about 13 game dinners last spring, but in 4 or 5 of those there were over 800 people there.
Wow.
They're huge.
Yeah.
And the churches use them to recruit new members. And the way they usually work is Christian hunters who are Christians, are invited to bring their hunting friends who are not Christians to come to the church and get a free meal, usually they're free, of wild game, and then they have speakers, and in my case I talk about deer, and so these guys come, and women too, because they get a really good meal that they like, wild game, and they get to hear some information about deer. And so they have become quite popular, and I love doing them. And the result is some of these people become Christians, and some start coming to church, and that's a good thing.
You bet. Well, there's much more we could visit about, but of course our time has run out, and we really want to thank you, Dr. David Samuel, for visiting with us. And again, I want to remind people to go to your website for bukus of information, KNOW, not N-O, KNOW, nohunting.com. Really, I think it's a wonderful website. So again, thank you, Dr. Samuel.
I've enjoyed talking to you. I always love thinking about and talking about Iowa.
Okay, great. Until next time, here's a thought. You must make your own blunders and cheerfully accept your own mistakes as a part of the scheme of things.